Hey everybody, JacqBean here, coming with another episode of the Fear the Walking Dead. Today we're going to talk about episode 3. It's called ODESSA, and I'm telling you, it really kind of gives you the background on P.A.D.R.E. It was really a really good episode, and I'm happy to share it with you. So let's get to reviewing. So this episode starts off with Madison waking up on a gurney, and she's tied down, her arms, her feet, everything is tied. She can't get up. And overhead, there's a obvious walker's head that's in a bag, like it has a burlap sack over it. It's all very reminiscent of what happened to Finch when he was there, except for, of course, he was knocked out when they carried the head in and it started to bite him. So it made me feel like that before I knew what they were going to do, that, oh, that's what they're going to do to Madison. They're going to have a walker bite her. Another woman came in to speak with Madison, and she had to be a part of the taking of Madison's blood and the testing of the blood. And while Madison is asking her, like, what is going to happen here with me, she was more apt to let June tell her. When June came in, she pretty much let Madison know that that walker head was going to bite her. Because her daughter Alicia had survived so long with a bite, she wanted to know whether it was the radiation or maybe it was hereditary. So that's why they had been taking her blood, just to be able to test it and see if maybe the cure for what happens with the walker bites could be a result of, something in Madison's and Alicia's blood. We go to a flashback 12 years ago, which actually had me scratching my head. I was like, 12 years? That seems like a long time. But I didn't remember that it was 8 years since the last episode of Season 7, Fear the Walking Dead. So you see Shrike and a person that you would have to assume is her brother. It would be the younger versions of them, as Shrike has pigtails now. But their dad enters, and he's all in his army fatigues. He plays a little joke on them, and they laugh, and you can really tell that they have a close relationship with him. He has to go back on another run, and you can tell they get very upset. They don't want him to keep leaving, very reminiscent of just anything that's happened when the children that are left behind, when the parent goes out to find food or do anything else. They wanted him to stay. Their dad, or their padre, takes them out to explain why he goes on these missions, or he's going out to these communities to find others. They go out and they're looking at a tree through binoculars that was given to the padre from their mother. They are looking at a bird in that tree, and Padre starts to tell them that, looking at these birds help each other. Not just their own, but all of them. They help everyone to make sure that everyone can be okay. And that's what he knows needs to happen. So they're going out really to find other communities to help them, so that in the end, they can all help each other. They had all kinds of supplies in these storage bins. However, nothing lasts forever. So if you don't have other communities to kind of work with, then you don't survive. And as an army man, he wanted to use special names when they're talking to each other, so over the walkie-talkies, so that people wouldn't know who they were talking to. So his thing was the bird thing. He had the whole bird thing going on. And so he named his kids he named his children Shrike, which is a bird. I didn't know what that was. And his son was Crane. It was interesting, he talked about Shrike, and he was just like saying that a Shrike may be small, but it's fierce when it comes to taking care of its family. So this is why she's so fierce? So Dad went on his way. So we get another small scene that goes back to the train where Shrike comes in and Madison is still laying on the gurney, and then she goes through her whole thing about, look at everything that Padre did for you, and this is how you repay him. So you're going to be our research to see what happens with this bite if you do have that kind of blood. And guess what? When Nightingale or Morgan comes in, he's going to be right next to you. So that's what they are going to do to Morgan whenever they catch him. And note, she doesn't want to use any sedative, nothing. She's like, you giving Padre pain, and now it's your turn to have some pain. You know, Shrike is cold-hearted, I'm telling you. Well, at the same time, on the outside, you see Wren and Dove kind of running up to the train. They definitely look like they're not where they're supposed to be. Dove was very concerned that they would get caught, and Wren was like, I have to know what's going on here. I think that Padre is lying to us, and I need to know. So the last time we saw Wren, I think I had mentioned in my first video that I did something strategic. I think she is looking at stuff. She wants to know the truth. She wants to know what is happening there. An independent mind in a place where there's not room for that. So she is definitely coming to see what's going on there. She also wants to know what happened to Finch, because Finch needed surgery. They haven't seen him. We don't know that he's dead, and I'm hoping that he isn't. And as we get back to Madison, the head is almost at her shoulder. It's down that far. And Mo bursts into the door with her sledgehammer, which is hysterical. But she's like, you stop. Stop, stretch, and let her go. They were able to get out of there with the help of Dove, really, because she's a little soldier. And, she wants to do what Shrike wants her to do. But they talked her into that she had parents out there, that she wasn't alone, that what Shrike and Padre had said to her wasn't true, and that Madison could prove it to her if they were able to get to the documents, and she'd show her who she was, her true name, and her parents. So ultimately, after they free Madison, have a little gunfire, they take Shrike hostage in order to get safe passage across to the island, and they leave the train. Oh, and there was the point that Dove was just ready to give Shrike a good shot in the head. That she was doing that to the children, that they convinced her that Padre was lying, in a nutshell. But Shrike said that if she get hurt, then it would even be worse, because she was Padre's daughter. So from that 12-year ago flashback, you believe that the man that was their dad, their Padre, that he was the person that's controlling this island, and that the way they were running it is what he had planned on in the first place. As they were walking through the forest or wherever they were going, trying to get to Padre, they got stopped by a group of people at gunpoint, and these people just kind of wanted to know, tell us what we want to hear or what we want to know, and we'll let you go. And they were really parents. They were looking for their children, and they wanted to get some answers. They were also looking for Aiden? I think it's Aiden. Who was the man from last episode that was looking for his daughter Hannah, and in the end he realized that she had died, and he kind of sacrificed himself. They let him know that Adrian had died, that he had gotten bitten, and Shrike is sitting there ready to start trouble. She was like, because of you, talking to June, And June is like, no, not because of me. The large group said, the lady that was representing them speaking with our folks said, let our commander, the man that's kind of running our show, make a decision on what to do with you guys. And we find out that the commander is Daniel. And so our folks know that they have somebody that is on their side, that knows them, that knows they're not out to hurt anybody. And he allowed for them to be given back their weapons and, able to make their way onto P.A.D.R.E in order to get these names, get these parents back with their children, because that's all they wanted. While they were walking towards the boat to get back to the island, it gave Madison and Daniel some time to just kind of talk. Madison said that, she wasn't really proud of going out there and capturing the children, but she wanted to kind of make up for what part she played in that. Daniel talked about how P.A.D.R.E had come in to assess people, and some people got to go to the island and others went elsewhere, but that they felt like he was too old, and so he really didn't have any usefulness. He had lost people that were close to him, but ultimately he was able to get with this group of people and wanted to really help them to find their families, because he feels like he's lost all of his family. Madison believes that the key is getting back to that island and finding those documents, because they would say what happened to even the people that he loved and lost. We could get information for those families about their children, everything. At this point, they had gotten to the boat that would take them across to the island. I have to say, Dove is like taking charge. She is the general in charge. So if P.A.D.R.E didn't do anything, they definitely made her feel secure in being in charge of kind of making the decisions. Before getting onto the boat, they asked Shrike some questions, because she was pretty much trying to stop Dove. She was like, do you really want to do this? Almost like, do you really want to find the real answer? And, my spidey senses start to tingle whenever she's saying something, because I felt like, why is she asking her that, And, part of it is just like, she's asking because she doesn't want her to know. And I was thinking at the time that I saw it that she's asking her because she knows something that she doesn't want to know. But one of the questions that they asked Shrike, I have to tell you that I keep wanting to call it Shrek for some reason, but it's Shrike. One of the questions that they asked her is, why would her father, or because she said that she was P.A.D.R.E's daughter, why would he want to separate parents from their children, and he's not separated from his children? As, with this company, with how they do things, she is his daughter. She never answered that, but she did ultimately say that P.A.D.R.E believes in everything that they were doing. We then get a group of the child army that P.A.D.R.E has that kind of break through the trees, and they're like trying to get Shrike released. But Mo pretty much jumped in front of everybody. He's like, would you shoot me? And then they just started to leave to go get the files. Mo was turned around and looked at Madison and was like, go and get the files so that they can know. If we make sure that if we can prove what is happening, the things that P.A.D.R.E has, we'll make the kids follow behind you. They'll believe you. At this point, they're not believing anything that any adult says. They believe that P.A.D.R.E has them because their parents didn't care for them and wouldn't take care of them. They all get on the boat, and they're on their way to the island to confront P.A.D.R.E and to get the documents. So we flash back again, the 12 years ago, when Shrike and her brother, Shrike and Crane, they were in a boat. And I think they were in the boat that their dad leads, but they saw that he had left his binoculars And, for them, that's really important. Those are the binoculars that their mother gave to their dad, and their dad said that, he believes that is a sign that they'd be okay. And of course, Crane was very upset. Their dad was getting ready to go. He needed to have these binoculars. And Shrike was being tough. She was telling him, nope, it's okay. He'll be fine. And of course, Crane, kind of knocked her down so he could get by her and locked her in the boat while he went running out looking for his dad to give him back the binoculars. So he runs into this place where it's like all these shipping containers, and he's calling for his dad. Shrike gets out of the door. It was all kind of closed and shut from the outside, but she got herself out of there to go running and looking for him. So Crane is running through this maze of shipping containers and calling out his dad, and Shrike is running behind him. She's trying to call him to say, follow my voice, come back to me. And of course, he's not paying her any attention. But as she ran past one of the shipping containers, she saw that there was dead. The dead were inside. And of course, when she turned the corner, the dead was walking towards her brother. He got caught in the maze, and there were a bunch of the dead following behind him. And her too. So they both actually got trapped with the dead coming, and their father was able to come through. Their P.A.D.R.E, he was able to come through and just kind of rescue both of them. He got Shrike up by kind of lifting her from his shoulder. He got his son up as well, Crane. And then of course he was overtaken. One of the walkers bit him on the ear, and as they see him going down, there's nothing that they can do to be helpful for them because there's a horde just right there on him. And as he was going down, he was just saying to them, don't forget what I talked to you about. It's too important to let it die. And the interesting thing is that, they took what he had said, and maybe with a child's mind or a young person's mind, they thought about it differently. Because I don't believe that that's what their father was saying. What their father was saying to me sounded a lot like what happened in Alexandria, finding the kingdom, finding, these different places that you could have community. Just their community would be in an island. And they would pass back things back and forth to make sure that they could trade with each other and do these things with each other. So it seemed to me, though, that they didn't really get the real, true essence of what their father was saying. They made up something else. So we're back at the island, and it looks like Finch is okay. He's sitting in the room with P.A.D.R.E, and he's just kind of telling them that he's going to get rid of his parents, for lack of a better term, since he knew that Dwight and Sherry were his parents at this point, and they were like, and Finch was like, but they saved me. And he's like, they didn't save you, I saved you. They were then interrupted because Madison and Shrike and those guys had made it to the island, and they were just like, we have your daughter, and we need you to answer our questions. So now that we know that their P.A.D.R.E, their dad, actually died because he had gotten bitten and consumed by a horde of walkers, who is the person back there? And so, or who is the person playing P.A.D.R.E? And we come to find out that it's the brother, it's Crane. Crane is acting as if he is P.A.D.R.E. And the both of them believe that what they're doing is what their father was asking of them to do during that terrible time. As they were sitting in there watching their father kind of walk around all bitten and turned, they ended up getting a call on a walkie-talkie to P.A.D.R.E, one who was their dad. And it turned out to be a child that wanted to know where their parents were. But instead of telling them the truth, they tell them that their parents aren't there for them when they bring their children into their group. And this is how this whole crazy Lord of the Flies environment began. But Dove really just wanted to know about her. Where's her parents? She had already taken all of this in. She thinks she has some parents out there. She wants to know that P.A.D.R.E was absolutely lying to them. And when Madison started to go through the document and found her folder, she realized that she was one of the collectors. She was the collector. And that her mom had died. And it looked like from the flashback, died trying to hurt Morgan. So she needs to tell this girl that she the reason that her mother is dead. And guess what? Shrike was right there to bring it open, to make her realize, or make that is Dove, make Dove realize that it was Madison that killed her parents. So it wasn't about that P.A.D.R.E said something or did something wrong. It was that Madison killed her mom. And she turned on Madison. I'm telling you, she was ready to shoot her. So Shrike and Crane, they were just going to kill our folks. And as they went to the boat or wherever they were going in the woods, they ran up against Daniel and his group, coming with guns, ready to blast off. They were like, you let them go, and we don't have a problem. And in the end, they did let him go. But Dove had decided she's going to stay with P.A.D.R.E. She didn't believe what they were going to do. She didn't believe her as far as she was concerned. Madison specifically was the person that turned her life to the worse. And that P.A.D.R.E was the person that made it better. So the last scene was actually showing Shrike as they had to let go of Madison and Madison and June and that group of people. She went over to the area where they had those shipping containers. They're just full of the dead. It's a huge little enclosure that has the dead in it, and you could also see the different shipping containers. And she goes in and says, well, people know where we are now, so we can't stay there. And it was more like he wanted to know, well, what do you want to do? So it looks like she wants to bring the children to that place, to where those shipping containers are. And that is overrun with the dead. But she's like, we've trained them, so let's see what they can do. So it actually looks like they want to put the kids in there, show that they've trained them enough to be able to protect themselves and secure that area. It really is Lord of the Flies. I can't believe it. So we'll have to see what happens next week on the next episode. It's interesting how this seems to be going. The parents against the children, the adults against the children. So let me know what you think. Did you think that they're doing what their father was talking about? Maybe I'm crazy, but I just didn't think that it seemed that way. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see how they kind of create this community with the children now that they want them to start fighting and, doing that thing. And I think that Dove is going to have a big place in there. She showed some real strength and courage, although that she didn't make the decision that I would have wanted her to make. If you're enjoying the content, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification button so you can know when my next video will come out. Until next time.